So, 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 yes, yeah. Simultaneously, let's take one issue at a time, and then I would like to come back to my agenda for a few minutes. So, the smart campuses. By that I mean you are essentially assuming every campus is IT enabled and IT rich, and for that you need two things. Oops, maybe I'm getting some feedback. I can probably mute me myself because you can hear me on the normal. Yeah. So on the smart campuses, first thing you need to make sure is you have high-speed connectivity. There are two national networks. One is called NKN, National Knowledge Network. The other one is from MHRD. Both of them provide for every university 1 gigabit. The problem is Usmania University or Andhra University may have 500. Yeah, now I think I'm hearing something. Shall I? Hello? I think so, but hold on. If I turn it off, I can't hear you. So let me leave it on, and I turned off the speaker. So if you are hearing me, that's fine. Yeah, if you speak something, say something, then if I hear you, can't hear you. I think it's only from this phone I'm able to see you. So let's come back to smartphones, smart campuses. Basically, we're talking about these IT-rich campuses, right? And that's what I understand by smart campus. That is, everything is enabled, everybody is connected, and so on. What that means is you are connected. First thing is, there's already two national initiatives, National Knowledge Network, and so on, which is gives you 1 gigabit of connectivity, one gigabit of connectivity to each university. And if Andhra University has 500 colleges, they'll just still give you 1 gigabit. I argued with them saying if there are 500 colleges, each one of them should get a gigabit. Then they're not inclined to think about it. There's another network, MHRD network. Both of them claim to give you 1 gigabit. They go through BSNL, and BSNL says, yeah, we are giving you a gigabit. But what happens is they kind of multiplex 20 ways, the same gigabit, assuming most people are not using. What happens is if you have a campus with 1,000 students all using the same, and looking up the answer to the same question at the same time, in 1,000 people, that means even each student will only get 1 megabit if they get the entire bandwidth. They don't. And so ultimately the whole thing crashes and you never get any answers. You wait and wait and wait. So there is a first need to make sure that every campus, every college gets high bandwidth connectivity, especially if you're using it for students and classrooms. They have a very funny behavior pattern. Everybody is asking the same question at the same time. Okay? So so first thing is you need connectivity. Second, everybody should have some IT computer device. You don't need to have a laptop, you don't need to have a desktop. Even a smartphone is good enough. Every student should be required to get a smartphone. They'll all love it because they'll go to tell their parents, my college requires me to have a phone, whether you like it or not, because then the literacy program, once it is ready, which will be in the next or so, first they will kind of try it with Sumita ji. She has to actually do it. She already knows how to use computers, but she has to go through that, and she should be able to do the one-day program in 10 minutes or 1 hour, and that includes things like, can you type in Telugu, and can you actually send a message? Can you respond to a message? Can you, attach an attachment to your message? Can you pay a bill on your smartphone? There are a whole bunch of little tasks If you know it, is not rocket science. If you don't know it, it'll take you forever. And so we are creating something that's being created not for educated people like you. It's being created for illiterate people. A woman in a village who is illiterate should be able to learn how to use a computer in one day. People like you should be able to learn it in 1 minute. Everything is 1 minute learning time. And so anyway, capacity building, that means every student, every faculty member, every administrator must have minimum capacity, so that if I say I'm attaching this with my track changes to your document, you should know what the hell I'm talking about. And then you should know how to use my changes I suggested in your document. So those kinds of things, there are certain things we all know how to do little bits and we think we know. It's half knowledge is dangerous. So at least if you spend a day acquiring enough digital literacy, you can kind of do that. The last thing you need for the smart campus is content. For every course that you give, there are probably 10 similar courses online around the world. And you should be able to find them and then make it available to your students, saying, I may not be the best teacher in the world, I can't afford to hire the best teachers in every subject. However, I have this content I want you to learn. So that's roughly what I mean by having a smart campus. You need the 4 C's: connectivity, computing device, capacity to use the technology, and the content that will enable you to learn what you need to learn. Sumitaji, what is the next topic? Hold on. Yeah, so massive online courses and e-learning. Again, if you assume, I'm assuming you have the capacity. I'll turn off the speaker again so that there's no feedback. Massive online courses is a movement that happened in the last 3-4 years. We've been talking about it for 20-30 years. But it was done on a much more quality-based way about a few years ago. And there's a whole history of it and so on. I'll be happy to tell you about it. There are 2 or 3 sites. One is Khan Academy. Khan Academy site, if you go to Google and type Khan Academy, you will find a lot of content. That's all mainly intended for high school students, PUC level students. But my feeling is even graduates in Andhra Pradesh probably cannot solve many of the problems. And among other things, one of the things we do is when we admit people to CMU, for example, we ask them to take a TOEFL test, which is a basic understanding of English: reading, writing, speaking, listening. And what we are finding is many people can think they know English, but when we ask them these questions, they don't get even 50-60%. And we are also doing the same test, in IIIT for Telugu. Telugu, do you understand Telugu? Reading, writing, speaking, listening. Even students that are born in Andhra Pradesh, raised, have never taken Telugu language. They've all taken Sanskrit or something else. And so when we give them Telugu test, reading, right, all we are saying is, can you read a newspaper at 8th grade level and explain what this article is about? What is he saying? What is this person responding? What is this? They can't answer because they couldn't understand Telugu. So what we are requiring is basic literacy in English and basic literacy in Telugu. We should probably add Hindi and so on. Right now we didn't get that far. But coming back to MOOCs, anyway, Khan Academy, if you do a Google search on Google Khan Academy, you'll find there's a huge amount of content. And they're all essentially, you can access them anytime you want. They're very well created, beautiful subjects. They started with Salman Khan doing only one thing. There's a book by Khan I will actually mail Shanti ji the URL for a talk he gave at the CMU, which is very good. It's only like an hour video. You can stream and listen to it. It gives you some idea of what we went through in creating and so on. Then there are two other things. MIT, Harvard, and a number of other universities have created a thing called edX. edX is a set of lectures. There are about 200 courses that you can actually stream from there. Full lectures. It's not just lectures. They have a format. You listen to the lecture, then you have to actually demonstrate that you understood the lecture by actually answering questions, comprehension questions, immediately. After that, they give you a set of problems. If you understood this lecture, you should be able to do these problems. And then there is a final issue of being able to demonstrate by evaluation. There's a quiz at the end of this lecture. All of that, what a 1 hour lecture takes about 4 hours of study. And what we require is a semester length course of 40 lectures. Every lecture is like 4 hours of study. If you're taking 40 lectures, then you should have spent at least 160 hours, about 2/3 of it solving problems. That's what we used to call homework. But the problem with homework is the parents don't know the subjects, especially if you're from a village and you're a day laborer. You don't know a damn thing. You don't even know how to read or write. So you can't tell them. So what they're now doing is the concept of a flipped classroom. You say, you listen to the... Oh, by the way, one of the things that has been disappointing to me is, I remember talking to Mr. Chandrasekhar when he was the Secretary for IT and Telecom. There is law on the books saying every student should get free connectivity. It comes under the universal service obligation. And I've been trying to get free connectivity to students. I still cannot get it. I don't know the process. Sumita ji, I request you put somebody online, somebody on the job, and so that any student who is registered can, without too much bureaucracy, without too much trouble, can get free connectivity on a 3G phone or a 3G device. And this has been there. Mr. Chandrasekhar is no longer at the IT department. And by the way, he's from Andhra Pradesh. I've known him for 15, 20 years. He is now president of NASCOM. But he's very dedicated civil servant, and I know him. And what I'm saying is, he may be able to do it. And another person you already have is the advisor to the CM, Mr. Gidigonda Satyanarayana. He knows also, and he's been saying we can get the connectivity, and I still haven't seen the answers. We talk a lot, and the problem is he may know how to do it, but do any of you know how to get free connectivity to your students? And if you do, raise your hand if you've gotten. Yeah. So maybe that's what you need to do. Only one person raised their hand. And so one of the things you need to do is go through the process in your campus and say, you're all students. By law, you must all have free connectivity. If you don't have it, tell me. And then there should be, again, a capacity building exercise where by going to a website somewhere, within 5 minutes, I can figure out what I have to do to become enabled for free connectivity. Because if I don't have free connectivity, I can't deal with it. So anyway, I said enough about MOOC lectures. If there are questions, I can answer more. Let me put you back on the speakerphone. Sumita ji, can you have a second? Yes. Yes, sure. Yeah. Let me turn off my speaker. So now I can't hear you, but you can hear me. Centers of Excellence is a great idea. And what it requires, again, is experts in that area. So let us say you're going to build a center of excellence in Internet of Things. The number of people, either in the government or in the university, that know about Internet of Things, I believe, are zero. I'm sorry, maybe. and you know, but however, that's not to say you don't know. You know, we all know what Internet of Things is. Basically, what that means is, it is not just people that are connecting to people. There will be devices that will be connecting to devices. The best example I can give you is a smart traffic light. Essentially, if you take what is on your cell phone and put it on a traffic light, the traffic light has a camera. The camera can be looking at the road, and it sees what cars are coming. There's image processing. And once you see the cars are coming, you know, there are no cars coming, you can immediately change the light. You don't have to wait till, you know, predefined amount of time. So if you're at midnight, you're coming along, you know, there's no other traffic, there's absolutely no reason why there should be a traffic light to stop you from driving through. These kinds of things are doable. Everything, you know, whether it's anything you take, whether it's a bridge, if it's about to collapse, it will tell you, I'm going to collapse. A truck driver stops somewhere in the middle, you know, and doesn't move for an hour. You know, his job or somebody has attacked him, something. The truck can have it will become a smart. How does it know that? Because it has this GPS, just like your phone has. So anyway, I can give you hundreds of examples of these things. All that it says is Internet of Things is basically a way of interacting with all kinds of devices. For example, during the Visakhapatnam hurricane or cyclone, CM was saying, how can I know what gas stations are up and what gas stations are not working? If you had an Internet of Things, that would be easy for him to do. He can say, these gas stations are not functioning. Why are they not functioning? And who is responsible for it? All of that can be available on his dashboard instantaneously. And we are not there yet. We can get there, but it requires a group of people who understands arcane details of networking technology and information technology and all kinds of things. I approximately understand, but I don't. If you ask me to do it, I wouldn't know, because I have not taken the trouble to learn it. So the number of people that can actually give you that kind of setting up of a center of excellence are not that many. There may be some people in IT companies, but even they, because they're in business, they say, yes, of course I know. You know, I've asked the people at TCS, they're some of the best group in the whole world, right? I asked them, can you do X? There's nothing they'll say, no, we don't know how to do that. Nothing. What that says is, if you go to L&T and say, we need X, they say, yeah, we can build an underground tunnel 1,000 feet below as a gas storage, which is what they did in Visakhapatnam a few years ago. But what do? They go hire consultants, from Spain or wherever they have experience, and they say, you come and be our consultant. We'll pay you whatever you need, and then we will work under your supervision to make this happen. They can do that because they don't have to go through tender. Nobody asks them, did you go through 10 different people? And there may only be one expert in the world. For example, during the time when Kuwait was attacked by Iraq 10, 15 years ago, all these oil wells were set on fire. There's only one or two groups in the whole world. Who knows how to set up, put out the fires of oil wells? You can't go on tender. You can't say, I'm sorry, I have to go do this or that. So there are all kinds of rules and regulations that private industry can break and make things happen, whereas a public sector or a university cannot do it. Not because, but those are the rules, and then an auditor will come and say, you did this and you didn't follow the rules and so on. So unfortunately, there are lots of things. All the rules are there for a purpose. I'm not saying the rules should not be there, but certain things cannot be easily done. And there is I saw one of the mission objectives is PPP mode. Probably that's one of the best ways of accomplishing a lot of things, where you kind of set aside some capability and then you essentially hand it off to private sector. The best example I know of that kind is in PPP mode is what central government has done, the Planning Commission, when Rajiv Ratan Shah was the secretary, set up these, he said, IIIT Hyderabad is the best model I know. It's all completely, non-profit, private sector. And I don't have to give them money every year. Let us adopt that model. And so they said, we'll do 20 more IIITs like IIIT Hyderabad. And it turned out, IIIT Hyderabad model, and it was shelved and suddenly it got revived. Now they're slowly setting it up. And the MHRD essentially says, we will give you 100 crores or something, and state government will give you some more money. Then you're on your own. You have to operate on your own. We are not going to give you a single penny. What that means, and they don't also control how much tuition you can charge, who you admit, and all those things. But you're not supposed to do capitation fees or something. But it's okay to recover your costs. For example, there are universities now, like Pilani and Mahindra College. They charge 5 lakhs or 4 lakhs a year. IIIT Hyderabad charges 1.9 lakhs. That's actually the cost recovery. 1.9 lakhs is today's cost of giving reasonably good education. And if the government comes and says, sorry, you can't charge 1.9 lakhs, you can only charge 60,000 rupees for engineering education, then there's a problem. Somebody has to pay the rest of the money, and the government does sometimes, but if you're a public college. If you're a private college, they don't. Then that means essentially they have to cut corners. They hire poor quality teachers or no teachers at all and pretend they're conducting classes. And the students are finally suffer because of that. So anyway, I think we were on Internet of Things, was it, Sumita-ji? Centers of Excellence. Centers of Excellence can be set up. And what I think you need to kind of see is you have to find at least one person who is a world-class expert before you even make statements about we're going to set up a center of excellence. Just by saying it doesn't happen. You need one person. The problem is that one person may say, I'm getting, $200,000 or 1 crore a year. What are you going to pay me? Many of us, we cannot pay that because the government has certain rules, right? So if it is a PPP model, maybe it can be done. A private sector can do it. Just to give you an example, in China, they may have all kinds of rules, but they break them all the time. For example, they wanted to hire a computer scientist who got a Turing Award, which is like a Nobel Prize, and he's the only Chinese, by the way, that has the Turing Award. And he was at Princeton getting 200, 300, 400K. They said, no problem, we'll give you $1 million a year, another $1 million for your labs. Come. His salary they're covering his salary the same as there, but they're giving him another $2 million to kind of do anything he wants. And therefore they were able to attract him, and he's there. And so Andy Yao is his name, in case you're curious. But so there are things that other countries are able to do that we are not yet able to do. I'm not saying there's wrong or right. It's just that given these restrictions, only certain things can be accomplished. If you want to set up a center of excellence in cyclone disaster relief, you probably can do it with the local expertise available because we have done it before. Even there's some technologies like how do you set up instantaneous cell tower? How do you provide clean water when you're surrounded by water all over the place? There are all kinds of issues of survival that can require the use of technology, but in general it can be done. So, Sumita ji, anything else? Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. Let me turn off this speaker here. I read the report on the Knowledge Mission document, and I was quite impressed with all the thoughtfulness, the amount of effort that has gone into it. And I think there are a lot of things there that are worthy of our attention. What I'm going to do is share my screen with you. And in order to do that, I need to first say share screen. Okay, plus share screens. So now you should be seeing on the screen whatever I am seeing here. Okay. I need to start maybe. Can you see it? I'm sorry, hold on 1 minute. Yeah, please, can you see it? Okay, what I'm now going to do is make the screen go into slideshow mode so that the whole thing is appearing. I thought we'll take about 10 minutes to go through the mission targets and see if we are on the same wavelength, on the same page. And let me go through them. And first one is improve the quality of education. And by the way, there are two goals. There's a 2022 goal and a 2030 goal. 7 years and 14 years. I have submit 7-year goals are not necessarily appropriate. I don't mean to put any aspersions on Sumita ji, but she won't be there 7 years from now. She'll be promoted. Sumita ji, did you say something? I'm sorry? Oh, good. Yeah, so fine. Let me go through. I'm going to turn off the speaker again. And in which case I don't need to, I can still see you without having this screen here. If you have my presentation, let me go here and bring up the big screen. Good. So I'm now able to see all of you. Sumita ji, if you can come to your left a little bit, I can see you also. Right now you're mostly hidden. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So basically, what I want to do was to kind of agree on whether we really want to do these things and what are some realistic goals for 6 months and a year. In the process of trying to do the 6-month year, we'll discover which of these are well-formed objectives and which of them are not well-formed objectives. When I went through all of them, I found about half of them can be done by the people in the universities. Most of you are from the universities, so basically, even if you wanted to do all of them, you cannot, because you don't have any authority or responsibility for making them happen. And I kind of made them into green objectives that you can do. And then I also kind of, so let's take the first objective, the improve the quality of education. And the target is 80% NAC accredited institutions. How many of you know what NAC requires? How many of you have gone through the process? Can you raise your hands? Probably none. And I have been through NAC, not NAC, but similar things in USA. It's a lot of bureaucracy. And for example, they specify what the size of the office of the vice chancellor should be. And they specify there should be a CFO, a finance officer, they should specify the registrar. There are 90% of it is to make sure that you have processes in place to conduct good education, ultimately. But when it comes to the quality of education, they just look at the curriculum and the content and they say, yeah, this looks acceptable or not acceptable. These are usually other peers that come to your institution to review that. So whether you get 80% or 60% NAT accredited, I don't believe it's going to improve your quality of the teachers. Improving the quality of the teachers will only happen if you make sure that somebody is reviewing their teaching performance, and they have to essentially sit in the classroom or have a camera. And these days, it's got, iPads, you can actually, somebody can be showing it. Some group of experts should listen to each teacher. That's a lot of time and effort. And then provide them feedback in what ways are they not doing the job. And this comes back to the capacity building. Most of the teachers go through, most of them don't even go to educational colleges. Even if you get a BEd, it doesn't make you a better teacher. You're supposed to go through some internship and practice and so on, and you don't get that much feedback. And what I'm saying is, if you want quality education, quality teachers, you need to figure out how to train them, and then how to evaluate them, and how to give them feedback on a continuous basis. NAC won't do it, so you need to redefine that objective. I think having improving quality education, the quality education comes from 2 or 3 sources. One is quality teachers, the other is quality content. And NAC actually looks at them, who are your teachers and all, but what they do is they go through a formula saying how many of them have PhDs, how many of them have a master's degree. That doesn't necessarily, just because you have a PhD doesn't make you a good teacher. Okay? So, coming to anyway, I can go through and talk about each of these things, and I found many of them are well-intentioned but not well-formed. The 2 I like most out of all of them is they're on my, I think on my last slide. Let me see if I can go to the last slide here. So basically, if you look through all my slides, I said some things only the government can take and the others are the thing, out of which, by the way, my feeling is anytime somebody gives you 20 things or 10 things to do, you won't get anything done. You need only 1 or 2 things to do. And my 2 things I came up out of the 10 for the next 6 months and a year is to work on improving the gross enrollment ratio and dealing with the problem of rural-urban divide. That's the last slide I have. And by the way, there are some minor errors or minor things that I didn't understand. on exhibit number 5, population growth rate 9.2%. I don't know what 9.2% is, because I know most population growth rates are either 1 or 1.5%, 1.5% in Andhra Pradesh, I believe. This may be some composite growth rate or something else. It doesn't matter. The issue is not for us to find problems or mistakes. The issue is to try to be constructive. The main 2 things, if you look at my slide number 8, saying key higher education socio-economic indicators, there is a current budget of 3,000 crores, and the current gross state GDP of state is 520,000 crores, okay? And that is 5.586%. And it is supposed to go to 1.5% in 7 years. And that means we need to triple the percentage, but the actual number comes to be, again, if you look at the, I believe it was Exhibit 5, mission targets or something on page number, anyway, I copied some of the numbers onto the last slide. I noticed you need to have the budget for higher education has to grow to 28,000 crores, okay? From 3,000 crores now, in 7 years it has got to go to 28,000 crores. And there is some wording there saying this is not all coming from the state, some of it will come from center, some of it will come from private sector and so on. There's a lot of wishful thinking, perhaps, but I think we need to be realistic. Let's take this year. Sumita ji, what is your budget allocation for this year? The number I have for 3,000 crores is for previous year, 14-15. What is the budget for 15-16? That's what I thought, yeah. Let me turn off the microphone. So if it is 3,200 crores, according to my calculation, by 16-17, according to the numbers you have, you should have 5,400 crores, okay? Or at least, depending on the scenario, 5,200 crores. By the way, there's no definition of what scenario 1, 2, and 3 anywhere in the report. And I presumed it was assuming the different kind of growth factors in the state, overall growth, state economy. But anyway, nobody defined it. It's just there, scenario 1, scenario 2. But you can take any of them. I can take the lowest one, 5,200 crores. If you're, last year it was 3,000 crores. This year is 3,200 crores. My suspicion is the government, being, in a financial state, may grow you to 3,400 crores, or maybe 3,600 crores, maybe even 4,000 crores. According to my calculation, for this year, it should have been, close to 4,200 or 4,300 crores. We are 1,000 crores below. But more importantly, by next year, you need to grow to 5,400 crores. I don't think it's going to happen. And so we need to kind of say, what is realistic? What can we do with the resources we have? And that's going to be, and then given that scenario, given these objectives, mission objectives, what can we do in 6 months? What can we do in a year? What can we do in 2 years? So we need to have year-by-year objectives that are signed off by the Principal Secretary for Education and the Minister and the Chief Minister. And they have to commit. If the Chief Minister is serious, which I'm sure, he's very dedicated and interested, if he's serious about higher education and wants to make sure we become among the top 5 states in the whole country, whatever, they have to commit the resources. If they don't commit the resources, I'm not sure how you're going to get. So let me be realistic. Let us assume if Sumita ji goes and beats up on the finance secretary, whoever, saying according to my requirements, I'm supposed to get 5,200 crores, very sick, and they might give you 4,200 crores or 4,000 crores, or some number. Given not scenario 1, scenario 2, there is optimistic goals and realistic goals and worst case scenario goals. Given all of those, you need to kind of say, what of these initiatives can I accomplish, and then how will I measure them? So the 2 things I know how to measure is the gross enrollment ratio and the rural-urban thing. The gross enrollment ratio is again a very fuzzy concept. It says you need to take all the population in this age group and take the current number of students in that group and divide this by that and so on. There's another simpler measure we have used in the past, which is simply of all the college-age children that graduated PUC or 10th class, how many students from 10th class joined PUC? It turns out from last numbers I've looked at, 10th class, there are about 10 lakhs or 1 million students that graduate, 1.2 actually, million students that graduate from 10th class, and of which less than less than 20% go on to PUC, maybe 20-30%, some number. I don't know, have the latest statistics. I was appalled, and it turned out most of the people that are dropping out at the 10th class are women. Why? Because the parents are afraid to send them far away because they're afraid for their safety. And you may be the brightest child in the entire school, you'll drop out after 10th class. So this kind of relates back to number 3 also, rural-urban divide. If you're a rural child, you may be the most brilliant child. If you do not have safety and security, the parents are going to say, nah, we don't care, don't go to college, it doesn't matter. So maybe essentially immediately you're losing, half of the population, all the girls, let us say that are in the cities, 20% of the, may go to college or school, but most of the girls in the villages won't go. And those that can go, educating a rural child in college costs twice as much as an urban child, because you have to pay for their hostel, food and accommodation, clothing, all those things that if you're an urban child, you're a day scholar, you can go to school. So the unfortunate situation is the people that are most deserving and least able to afford have to spend twice as much for education in higher education than children who are kind of at the lower, in the cities. This is the big problem with rural-urban divide. Namely, it's much more expensive to educate a rural child. And there is an inkling of the solution in your proposals in item number 3, saying improve institutional density. Again, I looked for a definition of what it means. I was not able to find it in the report, but I'm sure somebody knows what it is. But I'm assuming make more colleges closer to the people. So one goal I would recommend that you consider is take every mandal, take every constituency, and say how many colleges are there in that constituency of higher education. If there are no colleges, then those should be your highest priority. That you should absolutely require a college should be, if I had any money at all, I would kind of enter into public-private partnership with a local, rich man, whoever that might be, and say, you set up the college, you name it after your grandfather, we will give you this much money to build buildings and land and this and the other, then you make it happen. And if you were to kind of do the same thing, same model as IIITs that MHRD is doing at a local level, I think you may in fact get some institutional density closer to the people. The second thing is, even if you have an institution within each constituency, or ideally I'd like it in each mandal, an average mandal, it has between 50 to 70,000 people. And if you have 70,000 people, the number of children that are born every year are probably of the order of between 1,500 and 2,000. And so college-age children of, let's say, would be 4 or 5 times as much. So you're talking about, in each mandal, college-age children of about 10,000 students, let's say 8,000. And then even if you say, out of the 8,000, we want to provide for 40%, I think is the number you have, 40% GER, something like that. And that means you need to have a capacity of institutional education for about 3,000 students. Annual intake of about 750 or 700 students. If you don't have them, one of the things you need to get immediate statistics on for each mandal and each constituency is what is the, I saw that the average number of students in a college is only 350. And here I'm saying for every mandal, there must be 3,000. If you have a college, You should have a capacity of 3,000, 10 times as much. So anyway, there is some discrepancy which I have not been able to understand, but I don't have the data here, so I'm going to leave it to you, saying initially just take those two objectives, mission objective 2 and 3, that is improve GER and kind of do something about rural-urban divide. And I like the idea of institutional density. Ultimately, you need to have at least one college in each mandal. If for now, if not one college in each mandal, there are lots of colleges, but they're all in big cities. And that doesn't help me if I'm in some Srikakulam, Echella area somewhere, in a tribal area. Nobody wants to set up a college there. Okay? So anyway, those are the kinds of issues I wanted to talk to you about. But I can keep talking about this for a long time. But there are other things. For example, there are some minor errors. It's the public expenditure as a percent of GSDP. There was a percent number which was wrong. It said 0.5%. It's actually closer to 0.6%. But later on, I think they corrected it. But what we are also saying is current student enrollment in higher education is 11 lakhs, 1.1 million, let's say, and from my calculation shows there are about 1.2 million graduates in the 10th class that have graduated, right? Of all the people that take the exam, 10th class, they're all potentially should be going to colleges after PUC. So you have roughly, 5 million students that are potentially able to go. And 40% of 5 million is 2 million. And it says current student enrollment in higher education is 1.2 million. You are at least off by a factor of 2. And I don't believe this number also. Basically, from what I remember, this number adds everything, including ITIs and all kinds of other things. But more importantly, any college, even if the quality of education is close to 0, they're included in this. So somehow, number one, how many people are getting quality education? And the simplest thing you can do to evaluate that is to give them this basic literacy test I'm telling you about, namely, we have a test we use, which is 10th grade literacy. This is like an SAT test, aptitude test, and English language and Telugu language test. And it will be useful to know how many of them really know what the hell they've learned. Because even when they go through school, nobody tells them if they failed. Nobody tells them why they failed. What is the mistake they're having? Unless you get immediate feedback or feedback on where you're making mistakes, you're never going to improve. And nobody is there to give you feedback. The best school I know that does that is Rishi Valley in Chittoor district. What they do is they have no exams at all until the 10th class. But every day is an exam. At the end of the day, if you have done your homework and if you didn't get it right, the teacher has a one-on-one meeting with you and says, you made this mistake, go fix it and come back. And so that's what is needed in order to truly make sure that the students really understand. Passing 35% or 50% pass mark doesn't mean a thing, because all that it says is you don't know 50% of the subject or 65% of the subject. What does that mean? What are you educating? So there are lots of questions about quality of education that you need to kind of address, but we can deal with that. So with that, what I'd like to do is almost an hour. I think you all need to get home and we've been in meetings. Let me turn it back and then I'll be happy to answer any comments or questions at this point. Okay. Good evening. I can't see you yet, but keep going. Fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, Madam, I agree. I'm glad to hear that. But here is my question, namely, you're probably talking about the Andhra University campus in Vizag, but you also have 500, 600 affiliated colleges. What bandwidth are they getting? What bandwidth? What bandwidth are they getting? Yeah, sometime I'd like to come and go with you to some of your colleges and check out the bandwidth. There are a couple of programs you can get. One is called Bandwidth Place, and the other one is called Speed Test. On the internet, you can download them. You go to any campus you want and simply do a speed test and see what bandwidth you're getting. The big problem is not whether you get 25 Mbps, but let us say there are 1,000 students all trying to access at the same time. And by the way, there will be a few rogue students who are trying to download movies at the same time. And then ultimately, most of the people, can't get even 10 kilobits. And this is the problem we face. And I think what we need to do is, like you're saying, we need to increase the sensitivity to this problem and have well-established best practices throughout the state, throughout the colleges, throughout the universities. I think we'll get there. It'll take a few more years because everybody is becoming IT, digital literate and sophisticated. They won't put up with that kind of situation. And yeah. Right. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, 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 thank you. So I agree with the thing. I'm glad to hear about the progress, and I hope more of that will happen. What you need, by the way, I can't see any of you. Can we turn off the Skype connection and restart it again? That would be good. But anyway, when you're talking about a statewide situation on smart colleges and smart universities, you need a dashboard in Principal Secretary's office, which is able to show what colleges are connected and what bandwidth are they getting on an hour-by-hour basis. That will give you a clear idea of how good or how bad the situation is. I can hear you, sure. We're talking on the phone, but if you want me to see you, then you need to disconnect the Skype and reconnect it. Madam, because she was explaining something, I was kind of quite impressed about what Andhra University experience is. That's what it takes. It needs somebody who is taking initiative and gets all the people together and saying, why the hell am I not getting the bandwidth? And ultimately, all of them will come together, BSNL and so on, will do the things. Oh, I have time, plenty, yeah, go ahead. So basically, you need to start with accomplishable goals. First of all, everything depends on money. What finances you are able to mobilize. And if you're saying most of your problems are coming in admitting people and getting them started and so on, fortunately, Krishna district is a rich district, lots of people, and they can afford. So you can even insist that they have both an iPad and a smartphone. And once you say, as part of your orientation, you say, everybody must come here for orientation, counseling. You have to go through 1 day of digital literacy. Yeah, 1 day of digital literacy. And anyway, I'll be with Sumita ji in June, July. And if she, any of you who want to have more detailed discussion, we can do that at that time. Last week of June, because every situation is different, and I think there are probably general things. There are probably general things that are common to all of you. Namely, first thing is, how many of you have connectivity? Have you tested your speed of the connectivity? If not, what is the process by which you improve that? So is there somebody in the Department of Higher Education you can contact who will kind of enable you to get the connectivity that you want? Second, if you want computers, what kind of computers should you get? Right now, what has happened is procurement of the computers to the government, tender process is very political problems. What you might want to do is, I believe there is a rate contract or some general solution which can be established once and for all, and saying a rate contract for all colleges as established. That there should always be 3 different vendors. Don't pick one, pick 3, and saying you can pick any one of these. We don't care which one, and they'll all agree to the rate contract. That way, there is not any political interference or other kinds of things in getting the right devices into the hands of the people. And I believe you can do it. One of the things we have required at RGUKT, for example, is 5-year warranty. We said these students are going to be using these things for 5 years. Add that into the price, because if it doesn't work, it's your responsibility to keep it working. And those kinds of things can be done. But the issue is to kind of identify generic problems for all institutions or most of the institutions, and then see if we can solve them. Then there will be individual institutions that have really problems. If you're from Srikakulam or Anantapur or some backward area, then you probably don't even have connectivity now. And you're not like, say, Krishna, Guntur, Godavari, and Chittur. Chittur is pretty good, actually. And so there's one of the comments I wanted to make was item, mission objective number, making education city, the best in the world, right? Education hub. That'll happen. Basically, you have no control over central government institutions. IITs, IIM, they'll come, they'll get built, and the number of people, you don't even have any control on how many people from Andhra Pradesh you can admit into them. That's all decided in the center. More than half or 2/3 of them will be from other states, which is as it should be. But the only thing you can say is we have an IIT, But if you want to improve the GER of AP college-age students, then you need to do some other different things that need to be done. There are some interesting options in the future. There is this concept of a micro-university that I created about 30 years ago. Now, with the internet connectivity and so on, you don't have to have teachers in every place. You can have a 100-person university. They can be in a village, and all the students can be there. They can be listening to the lectures on the MOOC lectures, or even individual lectures from some professor from, Amravati, headquarters. But then once you have them, hello, how are you? So I think all of these are possible. Here is my time constraint. I have to leave in 10 minutes. Unfortunately, I have another meeting. So we can keep talking, but unfortunately, this is the end. Good evening. MOUs, in fact, every year at CMU, we get requests from at CMU at least every day, yeah, every year at least half a dozen requests. Most recent one is Modi, University, they wanted to have CMU collaboration. Most people don't really want to have a collaboration; they just want the name. They say we have a collaboration with XYZ. The first thing you need to define is what do you mean by collaboration with a foreign university? What exactly do you want from them? Now, the problem is, supposing you wanted their faculty to come and teach at your campus. That's doable. And that's exactly how IITs were built up right at the beginning. IIT Kanpur with USA, IIT Chennai from Germany, and so on. The faculty physically came and lived on the campus for a year or two, and the governments of the respective countries paid their expenses. That is, if you came and said the government, you have to pay their salaries in India, that would have been difficult. So they got their salaries paid. All that was covered was their living expenses, their housing and car and other things. So you need to first define what you mean by collaboration. And then you need to kind of say who will do it and think about it. So, what CMU says or the Harvard says, show me the money. Why should I work with you? There are 10 others, 100 others that are asking. What you can do is there are a lot of people from Andhra Pradesh and India, like me, in foreign universities. That's one of the great things. You need to ask, one of the reasons Andhra University should ask is, in CM, Carnegie Mellon, 20% of the faculty are from India. 20%. How many foreign faculty do you have at Andhra University or SV University? I submit 0 or almost 0, maybe 1 or 2 on sabbatical. So one of the things, so basically there are people whose heart is in the right place. They will come. The problem for them is they can only come because they have a job at the time when there's a summer vacation or winter vacation or something. And that also is the time that, you also have a problem. Now, ISB, Indian School of Business in Hyderabad, has solved this problem by throwing money at it. They want high caliber people. And so what they do is they say, you come for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, teach your course in sequence intensively for that 3 weeks. They will be studying nothing else except your course. And for the 3 weeks when they come, they pay them $65,000. That was the number long ago, but it may be more now, I don't know. But their tuition fees in ISB is 25 lakhs per year. So they have to charge that much so that they can attract all these people and pay them their going rate globally. So everything is possible, but there are parameters you have to kind of look at. When I come, I do it for nothing. I'll be happy to come, spend a day with you. But the issue is not, how much time and where the time is. Thank you. Okay. Sumita ji, anything else? Sure. Thank you, Sumita ji.
But you see the perspective that he brings, because he sees the whole system. He sees the connection between government, finances, university, students, computers, bandwidth, the breadth of this holistic thing that we're talking about. setting achievable goals, how do we set goals? Very interesting. The earlier one also, the first thing of how do you align students who are coming in, faculty who are coming in, and industry who is using. This whole alignment that Professor Saxena was talking about. Both were very interesting for me. First time I'm hearing either of them speak. I found it very inspiring. What did you hear the first time? Both of them. I haven't heard them speak. I've seen their writing. I don't know what